I can't believe I have you.
You look at what's going on over there today.
Well, so I'm looking out my window. I'm hanging out the window to get some tiny cell service. The entire city of Lviv is totally dark. Um, all of Ukraine. I mean, wait, I'm looking. I see lights and everything makes you move. So what happened on October 10th? That Russian infrastructure attack. This is bigger. This is scarier, more effective, and it's even scarier for two additional reasons. So from the capital Kyiv currently has power, but many cities around Ukraine do not have power, and everywhere from Kharkiv in the east to Lviv here in the west was hit today. But it's during the G20 summit. So the Russian foreign minister is in Indonesia meeting with the world leaders and trying to claim that there's, somehow that they're doing the right thing while they're attacking civilians and civilian infrastructure. It shows they have no shame. And then the most, probably I could say, chilling development, Poland was hit by all reports we've received by 2 Russian missiles within the past few hours. So NATO territory was hit, and this has been, people thought this might happen for a while because every time Lviv is hit, Lviv is only about, I'd say, 50 miles from Poland. But today, there were Russian missiles, at least 80 missiles. And Arrow, it's hard for me to know exactly what happened because it's very tough for me to get internet and communicate with the world and even with people around Ukraine. And that's another scary thing. And as we wait through this kind of sleepless but dark night, we don't know what's next, and we're sort of crippled, and that's terrifying.
Isn't this what they were almost predicting a week ago at this time when the one Ukrainian city was freed? They said, okay, what are they up to? What's up next?
Exactly, and anyone that studied the history of warfare, I think in our sort of silly American media, like, when Ukraine has a major victory, it's going to lead to escalation. I don't like that term escalation because obviously Putin is playing for victory. Ukrainians are fighting and struggling and gasping for victory, which means to the right to exist. And Putin's sense of victory means Ukraine doesn't exist. So it's there's it's a zero-sum game here, and when it was a major victory for Ukraine to get back Kherson, that was the only major city that Russia has taken, occupied, and so we expected something. In fact, Arrow, yesterday, Monday, we've had the Monday attacks in Ukraine for the past month and a half, and yesterday Monday was peaceful. I don't think we didn't even have any air alarms. And I was talking with friends earlier today, before this stuff happened. We were sitting in a cafe. And we're saying we all feel like we wanted an alarm because the sense of just waiting. The longer you wait for something to happen, you think the response is going to be even more terrible. And then all of a sudden, about mid-afternoon today, the entire country was under alarm, and then pretty soon, we heard explosions here in Lviv, and then I have messages from friends all over the country reporting explosions. And then probably, the scariest thing, imagine this, you're sitting imagine you're sitting in your home and you get a message from friends halfway across the country and they say, we see missiles flying over us and they're coming your direction.
Oh my God.
What do you do? Yeah.
Well, see, I've always had that fear inside my heart that they say that if there was ever, the big war, we would have only 45 minutes before they would start hitting the United States. And so, I've had that fear my entire life.
Well, and this, tonight, according to what we can tell, and according to my Polish sources, 2 Poles are dead.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, the farmers.
That hit Poland.
Yeah, we've learned that it's farmers.
And so right over the border from Ukraine, but this shows the recklessness of Russia, and then I think we have to step back and say what is this about? Like, if Ukrainians in 2014 did not say we want to be radically free, we want to control our own destiny, we don't want to be controlled by Russia, this war would not be happening. And it's the same thing. Yesterday I went to the funeral here in Lviv of a Taiwanese military veteran who came here. He was 29 years old. He came here to fight for Ukraine. because he understands that his country faces the same threat from Beijing that Ukraine faces from Moscow. And the more and more people in the West can see that, if you want to be free, this is the battle you have to join, because the tyrants, and this is,
Okay, we lost our contact with Joe at this point in time. We're going to see if we can reconnect here.
Arrow, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, great. We're back. And as we're back, the bells are chiming. The bells are not electronic. These bells have rung for centuries. So the city's quiet, but I hear the bells ringing in the midnight hour.
I can hear the bells in the background as well.
Yeah, it's a reassuring sound. And actually, where the part of the city where I am, the Mongols and the Turks tried to overcome these walls, and the people of Lviv resisted them. And so there's a long history of resisting, invading enemies here through the centuries.
Yeah.
But I went to this funeral yesterday of the Taiwanese fighter who came here for Ukraine, and they flew his mother in from Taiwan, and the Ukrainians were waving Taiwan flags, and they were supporting his mother. I saw. I mean, it was very difficult to witness, but I saw there, free people standing together. The people of Taiwan, they know what's at stake, because they know how easily they could lose their liberty, and this is the message that I think together we try to show to America. I mean, Americans. I just saw the governor of Texas said, he declared an invasion from Mexico, and I know it's a real problem, but it's a different type of invasion when you have missiles and rockets and Iranian drones, destroying your buildings and your people. That's real. And more and more, I encourage people to go back and look at the history of the 1930s, to watch some movies like The Darkest Hour about Winston Churchill, to really remember that time. Because we hear the same rhetoric and today. And, Churchill was a voice in the wilderness. Everyone else said, "Oh, Germany's fine. Yeah, they take over Poland or some nation. It won't be a problem." Well, we know what happened. And it's the same story over and over again. And I encourage people in America, especially now that 2 missiles hit a NATO country, to get wise and to start reading their history very quickly.
Yeah. So the president of Ukraine today made it was like a peace offering. Why is it that the Western world says it's still not enough?
Well, because Ukraine's peace offering, it requires one basic thing: Russia has to withdraw all of its troops from Ukrainian territory. And then the reason for that is, if there's some kind of fake peace deal that lets Russia take the territory that they've taken, then that shows that might makes right. That shows that actually gives Russia, hey, all you got to do is bully and oppress people, and you can get what you want. And Ukraine knows this, because in 2014, Ukraine, the people took over the country, and so the Ukraine was very weak. The army had been controlled by pro-Russian people, and the citizens kicked them out of the country, but they had no structure. They only had themselves. And Russia tried to take over cities like Odessa and Kharkiv, and the citizens fought back. But the Russians did take the Crimean Peninsula, and the world did nothing. And so for 8 years, then Russia was emboldened. And so Zelensky's point now, speaking to the G20, is if we make some deal now, then Russia is just they would step back and get even stronger, and then do this over again in 6 months or 2 years. And so everyone, we love to say never again. It's so comforting to say never again, but never again is happening. And we look at the atrocities in Mariupol, in the Kiev suburbs, and now we're starting to hear the news of what's happened in Kherson. I have many friends who have had relatives in Kherson with whom they could not speak the past 7 months, and unspeakable horrors that they went through. And the stories that if you're Ukrainian, you couldn't be on the streets of Kherson after 3 p.m. The Russians would just shoot you. It's exactly the same as what the Nazis did in places they occupied, and to the Jewish people. And so we have to say, all of our amazing structures and governmental, non-governmental organizations, what is the purpose of it if these atrocities continue again and again and again? and this is what we have to fix. We have to figure out a way, and we need leaders to do this. And we need voices like Churchill, and I hope we get more voices like that in the West. I don't hear them very loudly right now, except for the leaders of the Baltic. The only people who really understand this outside of Ukraine, of course, there's some Americans, but especially the Polish people and the people from the Baltic states who suffered under 70 years of Soviet oppression and who are neighbors of Russia. They understand it. The people of Taiwan understand it. The people from Hong Kong who are no longer permitted to speak, they understand it. But we really need America to understand it.
When you travel the countryside and go into these cities in Ukraine, what does it smell like? What does it look like?
I was just the past week. I was in southern Ukraine on the Black Sea coast. I was in Odessa, that beautiful city on the Black Sea, and then I went to Mykolaiv, which is only about 30 miles from Kherson. So I was in Mykolaiv right as Kherson was being liberated. We could hear the noise of the artillery. And as we're driving through there, one of my colleagues is from France. And he said, "This looks like France. You have beautiful vineyards and rolling hills sloping down to the sea. And it's absolutely exquisite countryside, so verdant and fertile. The amazing shades of green, even in here in November. And the region of Kherson is known for its watermelons. And so most of Ukraine is agrarian and natural. You have the mountains, the Carpathians in the west, which is sort of a high mountain culture. And then most of the rest of Ukraine is sort of just fertile fields, and it's a giant garden. And it really is a beautiful nature. And that's what you smell. But then what you smell in times of war, I mean, whether I'm in Kharkiv or I was 2 miles in a village 2 miles from Russia. We were delivering food and water to recently liberated Ukrainians, and Russians were firing artillery shells just 2 blocks from us. And that's the horrible smell, That's the smell of war and smoke. And I also experienced that in Kyiv. Sorry, I'm looking to see activity out the window. So you have this pleasant verdant land, but then when you're in the thick of it, you can smell the smoke of war, which is a horrible thing.
So you've changed in the way that it's you're definitely looking over your shoulder now. I mean, you've become a different person than the first episodes and stuff like that. It's like you're so aware of everything around you right now.
Yeah, I mean, for example, tonight, so the whole city's dark, and so now it's cloudy, but a few hours ago, you could see the stars, as though I was in the mountains, or as though I was in the Outer Banks in North Carolina. You could see all the stars, and then all of a sudden, tonight, just imagine, the city's in total darkness from 5 o'clock tonight, and there's a few different cafes stayed open, people lit candles, and they tried to serve people food and some drink just to keep going. And I was standing in the street and with some people, and we're looking at the stars, and then all of a sudden we see moving, little lights moving in the sky, and we're like, "What is that? A rocket? Is that Elon Musk's satellite? What is it?" And all of a sudden you become hyper attentive, to every little movement. And every little noise.
I read an article as we get, the Russians want to take this war into the winter months because they feel like that things will really, intensify because Ukrainians are going to need food as well as socks and things. How can people reach out to make sure that the Ukrainians have socks, have underwear, have uniforms and things like that?
Well, I think Ukrainians are very self-sufficient. I mean, they know how to make things, and I think this is a thing that Russian society doesn't have. But Ukrainians, they know. And I was mentioning my French colleague, and he was saying how one of the best soups he ever had was cooked by a Ukrainian outside of a bombed-out apartment building. He said it was better than a Michelin restaurant. Ukrainians, they know how to survive. They can build fires. They know how to grow things. We brought some water and grains to a village near Russia, and the woman was so grateful she gave us apples from her garden. And so Ukrainians know how to grow things. They know how to make things. But I think the biggest thing the Ukrainians need, of course they need warm clothes, for the soldiers, and everyone tries to help with that. But weapons, the HIMARS, the weapons from America, the long, this is like Ukrainians will fight this fight. The world doesn't have to fight it, hopefully, but as long as Ukraine gets weapons and support from America, and there's a lot of negative rhetoric in America about, we're just sending money to Ukraine, but you don't realize you were sending money to the bodyguards of Western civilization.
Yep.
And if we see it that way, then it means that the world doesn't have to fight as long as you give Ukraine weapons. So yeah, all the little support, and I welcome support for our project, UkrainianFreedomNews.com, but mainly encourage Washington, which they spend how much money, how many billions of dollars worth of equipment do we leave in Afghanistan versus how much have we given to Ukraine? So let's give more to Ukraine than we gave to the Taliban.
The black vest that you're wearing, is that a bulletproof vest in the pictures that I see? What is it that you're carrying?
Yeah, but it's not. It's not. There's a level 4 bulletproof vest, which is very light and also very effective. And I have what do you call it? Like a boondock version. It's just the best I could get. So it's very uncomfortable. But it, if a missile hits you, you're dead. But if there's shrapnel, it could protect your heart. And so in those places where we are, you gotta have a vest on. And it's and that's the other thing. It's like now the military is very well equipped after months of support from the world. But you still have these volunteers who go to the extreme edges to evacuate people and to bring people food. And they're usually not well equipped, and they don't have insurance plans, and they just wear whatever they can find. And then, imagine like you go to a village, you have a bulletproof vest like I did and a helmet, but then you meet the grandmas, the babushas who are still there, and they don't have this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's tough.
Because of Veterans Day, I've been blessed with the opportunity to talk to many U.S. soldiers, and the one main theme that a lot of them have talked about is that feeling of where they want to be needed. Are you seeing any American soldiers over there, or is that we can't talk about that?
No, definitely no active duty soldiers at all. And I know I can say this very clearly because I have many friends who are active and even reservists who would love to be here, but they cannot.
Okay.
But instead, what we do see many veterans from Britain, from the UK, France, all over the world, Taiwan, and there's one veteran in particular from the U.S. who he put most eloquently the sentiment of most of these people. He said, for 20 years, he gave his life and his career and his military expertise to America for Iraq and Afghanistan. And he said he went home to America and he couldn't sleep at night because he didn't know what the point was. But then he came here to Ukraine. He said, I can sleep now.
Yeah.
Because I know that now this is clear. I'm actually on the side of something that's very clear. I'm standing for good against evil. And, this is the Ukrainian people. Everyone here, including the Americans, say, the American veterans here who are retired, they say, the Russians are the orcs and the Ukrainians are the hobbits. It is a clear good versus evil battle. And I think a lot of foreign fighters and foreign volunteers, and even me, people, foreigners are coming here for redemption. And I saw this when Sean Penn, came.
Yes.
Yeah, he came to meet with Lindsley. He's been here like 4 or 5 times. He was here 3 days before the war, and just to film some other movie, and then he got stuck here. I actually had custody of his bulletproof vest for a couple days.
Wow.
Because long story, but he was trying to escape. But then he came back, and the fact that some of these celebrities come back here, like everyone that's here who comes from outside is on a quest for truth and meaning, and they find here something that's more real than any movie, than any video game, than any political contest. And that's why they come back. And so there's really something very beautiful happening here, despite all the horror and the fear and the ravages of war. Okay. But this is the edge of time and space. This is the edge of truth. And so many seekers are coming here to Ukraine now and joining the effort.
Wow. Where can they go to get more information and to donate money?
Well, for our purposes, yeah, you can go to our website, UkrainianFreedomNews.com, and there I have my daily reports with WGN Radio, and we welcome support for our volunteer journalists. And then we also, small batches, deliver supplies to soldiers, to hospitals, and to especially the people in villages that have been recently liberated. So we welcome any support there at UkrainianFreedomNews.com.
All right, buddy. All right, you be careful tonight, all right, and keep up to date with me.
All right, thank you.
All right, stay strong, all right?
Thank you. I will. Thanks.